Our journey begins in the Namibian capital Windhoek, where we overnight before heading north to Okonjima and Etosha National Park. We then skirt the border with Angola at Himba Falls before turning southwards to Twyfelfontein and the wild Skeleton Coast, where a short flight takes us to our luxury lodge in the wilderness. After our stay here, we continue south to Namibia's second city, Swakopmund, then on to the mighty Namib Desert and the massive red dunes of Sossusvlei before returning to Windhoek for our flight home. The next day, we board our four-wheel drive for the journey north to Okonjima. Namibia is a vast but sparsely inhabited country with very little of the road network tarmacked. Shortly after leaving Windhoek, we get onto dirt roads and start to discover the stark yet beautiful landscapes of this arid country. We arrive into Okonjima, home to the Africat Foundation, a non-profit organisation committed to the long-term conservation of Namibia's large carnivores. Our lodge is located close to a waterhole where oryx, springbok, zebra and jackals come to drink. It is also here in the 200 square kilometre reserve that we set out to track cheetahs. Our expert guide uses a tracking device to detect the whereabouts of these magnificent cats, and once we discover their location, we set out on foot to get a closer look. Okonjima's guides know the behaviour of these cats well, and we come within a few metres of where they rest under the trees and watch in amazement as they ignore us completely before getting up lazily and wandering off. In a different part of the reserve, another pair of cheetahs are best observed from the vehicle. These are older cats and less likely to tolerate the close proximity of humans on foot. A 2-day stay at Okonjima also offers the best chance to view wild leopard in Namibia, as well as those collared for research purposes in their natural habitats. And we have 2 days at this fantastic reserve where we will take part in morning and evening drives to spot these beautiful creatures. And what better way to finish an exciting day than with a sundowner, the first of several we will enjoy on our Namibian adventure. Leaving Okonjima, we travel 250 kilometres north to the world-famous Etosha National Park, entering the reserve through the southern entry point, the Anderson Gate. We spend one night at the Okonjima rest camp on the southwestern side of the park and 2 nights at Mushara Lodge on the northeastern side. This gives us the best opportunity to crisscross the massive national park, which owes its unique landscape to the Etosha Pan, a vast shallow depression of some 5,000 square kilometres, so large it can be seen from space. The park is home to 114 species of mammals, several of which are rare and endangered. It also has some 340 species of bird, of which 1/3 are migratory. Etosha National Park is home to 4 of the big 5, the absentee being the buffalo. But with more than 2,500 elephants flocking to the waterholes scattered throughout the park, the game viewing experience here is exceptional. As dusk approaches, it is a common sight to see a herd of thirsty elephant break free from the bush and rush towards a waterhole to slake their thirst and wallow in the cooling waters. Elephant, zebra, impala, springbok, kudu and other antelope often gather to share the waterhole, while wary giraffe keep an eye out for predators. They are at their most vulnerable when they stoop to drink. There is also a healthy population of black rhino at Etosha, and lions are also common, though the elusive leopard is harder to spot as it hides in densely vegetated areas. After our 3-night stay at Etosha, we travel north through the park to Ondangwa, where we spend 1 night. One of the highlights here is a visit to the Ongula Traditional Homestead, a village of the Ovambo people, the largest ethnic group in the country, accounting for just over half the population. Here we learn about their culture and customs and see some of their traditional crafts, including pottery making. We watch as several girls from the village pound the sorghum in the time-honoured ways. This grain is an important food crop in Africa, especially arid regions, and is used to make a variety of products, including bread. And then we enjoy a traditional meal at the homestead. After our overnight stay in Ondangwa, we head northwest to the mighty Kunini River, which forms the border with Angola. The Kunini is punctuated with thundering waterfalls, whitewater rapids and tranquil streams. We stay on the edge of the Kunini River for one night in our comfortable lodge set amongst lush vegetation. Late afternoon, we head out onto the river for an unforgettable sundowner cruise, splashing through the fast-flowing waters, skirting the rapids, and stepping ashore to stretch our legs and to soak up the atmosphere that is unique to an African sunset. And as we sip on our drinks, we watch the sun dip below the horizon as we head back to base. The next morning, we set off for Ipupa Falls, 190 kilometres upstream of the Kunini River. Here the river fans out into a number of channels before cascading into a deep gorge. It is a breathtaking sight as the white mists of water rise above the gorge, and a perfect spot to watch the sun go down. This part of Namibia is also home to the Himba people, and a highlight of our 2-day stay in this northernmost part of Namibia is a visit to one of the Himba communities. On arrival at the community, we're welcomed enthusiastically by the villagers, mostly women and children. The men and older boys can be absent for days at a time, tending their goats and sheep. The Himba wear few clothes and rub their bodies with red ochre and fat to protect themselves from the sun, and their jewellery reflects their marital and family status. The villagers appear to be as delighted to see us as we are to see them, and as we leave we unload the van of the provisions we've brought with us to thank them for their hospitality. Our journey then takes us south through the stunning scenery of the Kunini region to Twyfelfontein and onto the spectacular Kaurab Gorge. Namibia is one very big nature reserve, and as we drive through the changing terrain, we will almost certainly encounter a variety of wildlife, and we take these opportunities to stop and watch them from our vehicle before continuing on our way. We spend one night at Kaurab Gorge, where our home is a luxury lodge situated on the banks of the Hoheneb River. Throughout our Namibia tour, the accommodation is exceptional. Many of our stops are in remote wilderness areas, yet the comfort is first class. Leaving Kaurab Gorge behind, we continue our journey south to Namibia's famed Skeleton Coast, where we spend 2 nights. The Skeleton Coast is so called because of the whale bones that peppered the shoreline when the whaling industry was booming, and, more ominously, the hulking carcasses of sea-wrecked ships buried in the sand. More than 1,000 have met their end on the deadly coast where the vast desert sands come down to meet the Atlantic Ocean. Over the next 2 days, we crisscross the remarkable terrain, driving through dried-up riverbeds and sand dunes in search of desert-adapted elephants and lions. Desert-adapted elephants are found in only 2 locations in the world, in Mali and in the northern reaches of Namibia, specifically along the riverbeds of the Keukeland and Damaraland areas, which we explore extensively during our stay. These elephants have adapted to survive in the harsh climate of the desert with very little water. They have larger feet than other African elephants, which enable them to move more easily through the soft desert sands, and their smaller size also means that they need less water to survive. These elephants also have slightly longer trunks to allow them to dig down into the sand in search of the water that might be running underground. Namibia also supports a unique population of lions that lives in the northern Namib desert. This small population of desert-adapted lions survives in extreme conditions, living in a harsh habitat of sand dunes, gravel plains and barren mountains, and occasionally foraging along the beaches of the Skeleton Coast. Nowhere else in the world can free-ranging lions be seen amongst sand dunes or on a beach. Encountering lions on any safari trip is inevitably a highlight, and to see a female and her young in the starkly inhospitable Namibian landscape is something else. We continue our journey south into the heart of Damaraland, a dry and stark, sometimes mountainous landscape most famous for its geological wonders. Here we begin a 2-day exploration of the Twyfelfontein area, the first site in Namibia to be granted World Heritage listing for its remarkable rock engravings estimated to be around 6,000 years old. We explore this massive open-air art gallery which boasts more than 2,000 rock paintings, the work of the San people who lived in the region long before the influx of Damara herders and European colonists. Another claim to fame of this remarkable region is the so-called organ pipes, a fascinating geological formation of long columns resembling those of the church organ, some rising up to 5 metres high and strikingly rich in rusty colours. These columns are thought to be a result of the Gondwanaland breakup approximately 120 million years ago. Also in the area and close to Twyfelfontein is the Living Museum of the Damara people. This museum is the only traditional Damara project in Namibia and reconstructs the lost culture of its people. Here we have the unique opportunity to get to see firsthand the fascinating traditions of the Damara. As well as being an enriching experience for us, our visit also contributes to the preservation of their culture, as well as providing a regular income for the Damara community. Leaving Twyfelfontein, we journey south towards Namibia's second city, the coastal resort town of Swakopmund. This charming town appears like a mirage in the desert. It has a charm of its own and is noted for its German colonial architecture. We spent 3 nights here, staying at the nautical-themed Beach Lodge. As its name suggests, this beautifully appointed lodge is situated right on the beach, with magnificent views of the Atlantic Ocean from each room. It also has uninterrupted views from the exquisite second-floor restaurant, The Wreck, which is also famed for its excellent cuisine. 40 kilometres to the south of Swakopmund lies the harbour city of Walvis Bay, which is famed for its bird life, particularly the large flocks of pink flamingos that wade in the lagoon, which is one of the scenic drawcards of the city. This is one of the most important wetlands in southern Africa, and a stunning sight as the flamingos paint the landscape pink. And it is here that we board a boat for a thrilling half-day excursion out into the bay and beyond. As we leave the harbour, we are soon joined by pelicans flying alongside the boat, ever the opportunists hoping for some fish. As we head further out, we may see dolphins at play, as well as inquisitive seals that love to frolic in the boat's wake. Before long, we arrive at Pelican Point, where we see the Cape fur seals basking on a piece of land jutting out to sea and frolicking in the waters around our boat. Another highlight of our stay at Swakopmund is the Living Desert Tour. This excursion into the desert sands reveals some of the smaller, even tiny desert-adapted creatures. We drive through the dunes in 4-wheel drive vehicles with an expert guide who will spot the telltale tracks of these small desert animals, such as geckos, chameleons, skinks, and tiny snakes, one of the more common being the non-venomous sidewinder, so called for its sideways movement. Leaving Swakopmund, we drive south to the Namib Park. The top attraction in the park, and indeed one of Namibia's key drawcards, is Sossusvlei. This photogenic area is famous for its majestic red star-shaped dunes, which reach up to 325 metres high. The sand that forms the dunes most likely originated in the Kalahari between 3 to 5 million years ago. It was dragged down the Orange River out to sea, where the Benguela current swept it north to be deposited along the coast. From here, the wind carried the red sand inland to form the dunes over time. Their distinctive red colour is due to a thin iron oxide coating. Walking across the red sand, we reach the white clay pan of deadfly, characterised by dark, dead camelthorn trees contrasted against the white pan floor. The trees are estimated to be approximately 900 years old, however they have not decomposed due to the dry climate. Deadfly is a paradise for photographers, as the contrast between the pitch black trees and bleached white pans, the rusty red dunes and the deep blue sky make for incredible images. This remarkable vista makes a fitting photographic finale to our spectacular Namibian adventure.